My name is Gary Yamamoto. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Finch Technologies. Um, just a bit about Finch Technologies for those who don't know us. We're a relatively small startup, started about 3 years ago. And what we're really focused on is input technologies for VR and AR. We don't do other things. We're not making headsets. We're not looking at a lot of other things. We are really focused on one thing, which is input technologies for VR and AR systems, right? Um, a couple of projects. We're, like I said, a relatively small startup, been around for 3 years, but we work with most of the really big tech companies. So as an example, HTC Vive Focus, their mobile headset uses our controllers. We work really closely with Qualcomm, where their Qualcomm's reference design. So for their 835, 845 series chips and stuff, where their reference design for 3 degrees of freedom and 6 degree of freedom controllers. We work really close with guys like Bosch and all the other players. So though we're quite small, we're very fortunate, I would say, to be able to work with a lot of the big players, right? And so today, what I want to talk to everybody about is a little bit about the future, I think, about interactive technologies and really where it's going, because it's a subject that people don't talk about very much. I think everybody really usually focuses on the headset and the optics and all of that, and that's really great, and I think it's really great technology. But as we'll discuss today, the human interface is usually an afterthought, but not for us. For us, we take it really seriously. So what we're going to be talking about is really taking control of XR, and in particular, what we call the invisible interface. And I'm going to go into all that as part of my talk, right? But first, kind of to begin, to get us kind of on that road, I would say, of interfaces into AR and VR. The key is, look, when you're in AR or VR, you're really in these other worlds, right? So, if you imagine you're a bird flying around, you really need to be able to move really freely, right? In all dimensions. So 6 degrees of freedom, of course, and really freely. Imagine you're in an underwater environment, you're a fish swimming around, or you're a shark chasing fishes. Same thing, right? You want to be able to go, move left, right, up, down, really fast and really freely, natural freedom of motion, right? This is really where we're trying to get to when it comes to the interface, the human interface. And so, this road that we talk about, what we call the invisible interface. So even in a situation when you're on a road or you're driving a road, really you want to just roll the window down, wind in your hair kind of thing, and just go, right? You really want to be free, as we say, in what we would call natural motion, right? But what's interesting about the road analogy and this journey analogy is that when you look at a road like this, right, actually the road kind of at some point just vanishes. You're looking down the horizon and then it just kind of goes away. You can't really see the road. We know it's there, but we don't really see it anymore. And in fact, in this term is considered a vanishing point, right, where all lines converge to the point where they actually vanish on the horizon, right? This is kind of a known concept. And where we really want to start the talk today is about this concept of vanishing point, right? Where everything kind of converges and basically vanishes, right? So when you talk about technology, so we're talking about philosophical driving, but let's bring it to technology, because that's what we're here for today, to talk about XR and technology. When you talk about technology vanishing point, there is one, right? What is the technology vanishing point? It's when technology is so perfectly meets the needs of the users, right, that it ceases to be something that the user is conscious of. And in XR, AR, VR, whatever you want to call it, this is really where we're trying to get to, right? We're trying to get to the point where we don't actually talk about technology when it comes to AR and VR and XR and MR. It's so good that we actually just forget how it's done. We just enjoy the ride, right? This is where we're trying to get to. And I'm going to give you some examples because it's really important to kind of digest, really think for a second about where are we at today in relation to where we're trying to get to, which is the vanishing point, right? So let me give you a couple of examples of vanishing points that, that have been achieved by technology, right? So here's a great one. When I was growing up, we used to always talk about special effects. I don't know if you guys remember that, right? When people used to say, oh, you got to go see that movie. It has great special effects. And after the movie or something, you'd say, did you see those special effects? They were amazing. Or, they weren't very good, right? Special effects is one of those things where we used to talk about it all the time, like good ones, bad ones, a lot of them, not a lot of them. But somewhere along this continuum, special effects became so good that we actually don't talk about it. Do you guys talk about it? I don't talk about it. I mean, I go and experience a movie as an example, and I'm assuming there are special effects there. But they're so good now that I basically don't ask how they do it. They just are there, I guess, and I just enjoy it. So in this example, I'll give you a clue. So you see these two photos, okay? One is, of course, CGI, one's real. Okay, so how many people think, raise your hands, the one on the left is real? And how many people think the one on the right is real? Yeah, kind of about half, right? Because it's so good, actually, you can't tell. It hit the vanishing point, right? We don't even ask about special effects anymore. And in fact, I'll tell you, okay, it's actually the one on the left is actually filmed, and the one on the right is actually CGI. But as I said, we don't care. Does anybody care? I don't care. I mean, it's just enjoyable, right? So let me give you another one that's maybe even closer to home, right? When we talk about things like vanishing points, what about personal media? Okay, so again, let's look at time. When I was growing up, there was a lot of evolution in personal media. I mean, okay, you started with like piano rolls, but then we went to like vinyl, LPs, records, right? We went to, the generation of CDs came along, and then MP3s, and then DVDs and VHS and VHS. There was, oh my gosh, there's all these different things. And as we went along, I had a great CD collection. I think I have a great record collection. And I then had a great CD collection, and it just kind of kept going on. And in fact, I would ask people, like, oh, are you guys using Blu-ray? What about you? Are you using, what do you guys do? The iPod came along. This is all great stuff. But actually, today, right? Today, I don't do that anymore. I realize I don't do that anymore. When I want to listen to what I want to listen to, I don't go into my bedroom and look at all my CDs, right? I just click the button and boom, I listen to what I want to listen to. When I want to watch a movie, I don't say, I should have picked that DVD up. No, I just click the button. It's on demand right now, because personal media has hit the vanishing point. Really through streaming, right? It's pretty much on demand. It's pretty much instantaneous, right? And albeit, of course, there are people working extremely hard in the background to make it really easy for us to pick what we want and see what we want and hear what we want. To most people like myself and to most of you guys, we just enjoy the ride, right? We just enjoy the fact that the music that we want in a certain mood is there when we want it. Agreed? Vanishing point stuff, right? This is what we like. Now, of course, we're here to talk about VR, AR, XR, right? This is what we're really here to talk about. So what we have to ask ourselves is, where is the vanishing point? Where are we at in this continuum in XR, right? This is kind of what we're here, I think, today, and yesterday and today, we're thinking about. We're really, or at least this is what I think about. I think about, when are we going to hit the vanishing point and what steps are needed to hit the vanishing point? So when nobody even asks how they're experiencing XR, they just enjoy the ride. They don't have to ask the question, right? They just enjoy the ride. So when I look at where is the vanishing point for XR, I take a step back, bigger than the interface, bigger than just human interface. I want to take a look at a few things. And I'm not an expert in everything, but I have to tell you, I'm extremely, extremely fortunate guy, because I actually spend almost all my time, all year round, I'm traveling around the world. I'm in the US, I'm in Asia, all through China, Taiwan, I'm in the UK, I'm in everywhere, I'm all over the world. And what I'm fortunate enough to do, I'm talking to people about everything, about whatever they want to talk to. It could be about, processors, it could be about human interfaces, it could be about, apps that they're building. And I just listen to what they're saying, what they're doing, what their problems are, what their successes are, what their ideas are, right? And this is what I do. As the CEO of Finch, I get to do this. It's really cool, right? And so when I look at things like the vanishing point for XR, let's just take a few pieces of it and talk about it for just a second, okay? Processors. So I think you guys processors are getting faster all the time. We know that, Moore's law, blah, blah, blah. It's good. I mean, the processors are getting faster and faster and faster, both graphics and just main processors. So processor technology is coming along. Has it hit the vanishing point? Probably not, because people still say, what processor are you using and what are you going to use? But it is coming along. I think we can agree with that. It's really coming along. Let's look at something else, portability. Okay, to really make AR work, as an example, parts of XR work, you need to be portable. You need to be able to use it here or there, everywhere, right? So again, you look at mobility, you look at what's going on as far as portability goes. And again, I see it all over the world now. I mean, more and more people are cracking this mobility issue. They're untethering themselves, right? And it's becoming more of a natural movement thing. So portability is coming along. Is it completely vanishing point? No. But I think it's obvious, I think, from everybody here, mobility is coming along, right? There are progresses, right? Graphics, yeah, still some people say, oh, resolution's not so good. Could be better. What's the resolution? Yeah, I hear that sometimes. Less than before, actually, less than before. And what I've seen and what I see every week are technologies, breakthroughs, where really the graphics are getting really good. Again, like to the point where special effects, right? You kind of don't think about it anymore. Graphics are going to get there. I'm not worried at all now. I see the future. I see the technologies that are being developed. For sure, at one point, nobody's going to ask the question of what's the resolution anymore. So graphics, I see it. I see there's a path for graphics. Networks, I'm not the expert. I'm sure there's 1,000 people here who want to talk about 5G, but we all know, right, that 5G is an existing technology. It's a technology that's been proven, it's working. And when you see 5G, and I can just tell you, when you see 5G really working on AR, VR, you don't need to compute anymore on the headset. Right, you know that, right? You just don't. It just sends out the data. It's processed in the cloud and sent back. So the processing, the heat, all that goes away. You don't really worry about it anymore. How soon will we all have 5G? 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? I don't know, but I know it's coming, and I know that when it comes, you won't need to process on the headset. You'll be able to process in the cloud, and that changes the game, of course, right? It allows, it really makes battery power longer, microprocessors smaller, et cetera. So networks are on the way. Audio, what can I say, guys? I mean, you got great microphones, really great microphones, right? You've got really great, audio equipment. You've got this bone conduction now that's really fantastic. So audio's going, right? So, you're going to get all that, right? So again, really good, all moving in the right direction. So the last one I bring up, I'm going to talk about, of course, is human interface. And that's what I look at. So I looked at everything else and said, okay, like if I'm way ahead of everybody, that doesn't help me, right? And if the human interface aspect is way behind, that's also not a good thing, right? This is not a good thing. And when it comes to human interface, we all know it has not hit the vanishing point. I mean, every day, honestly, people talk to me about human interface, right? That's what they want to talk about. They say, okay. Is the system optical? Okay, so if it's optical, is it remote optical, like cameras looking at you, ceiling cameras? Is it optical from the headset itself? We talk about electromagnetic systems, how much power are they using? We talk about acoustic systems, ultrasonic systems. How many receivers? We still ask, like how many? These are the kind of questions we ask. You take IMU-based solutions, right? You say, okay, so how many IMUs do you have? What kind of accelerometer are you using? What kind of gyroscope are you using, right? What's the accuracy? What's the drift? It's all how, why? This is where we're still at with human interface, right? It's still on the mind all the time, and it's not reached vanishing point. Let me be clear on this point, okay? Not reached vanishing point. And so you might say, or other people say to me sometimes, but Gary, is human interface so important? I mean, we get it. The headset's really important, but is human interface so important? And I would say it's like almost the most important. And the reason why is because it's how we interact with the world, okay? So let me give you an example, or our external environment. So let me give an example. You guys, I'm sure all remember when there was QWERTY keyboards on mobile phones or mobile devices, right? We had Blackberries and we had Palms. I like Palm. I used to use Palm all the time. We used to input always with buttons. Okay, right? We all remember that. It's all obvious, right? And then all of a sudden there was like this touch screen, right? There was the first mobile device, and then boom, everybody had a touch screen. And the idea of inputting by buttons, right, kind of faded away. And we didn't really think about it. We just accepted that touchscreens are there and they're good and they're fun and it was great. But why do I say it's so important? It's so important not because of the touchscreen, not because of the technology of touchscreen. It's because it changed the way that we, all of us, interacted with the app. You see, this is what people don't get. It's not the smartphone that changed it. It was actually the way that we interact with the app. So the developers they said, okay, wait a minute, hold on. You mean the user could swipe something or flick something or pinch something on the screen, and that would induce an action or a reaction in the app, right? So all of a sudden, developers said, whoa, wait a minute. So I could do something really new. I could create something different. And they did. They did. If you think about your apps now, right? Most of them don't use buttons anymore. You're scrolling along, you're flicking things, you're doing all sorts of stuff, but you're not clicking buttons. Why? Because with the change in interface, there was a change in how we could create apps and experience the apps in a different way. You guys are with me. You see what I'm saying, right? It wasn't the phone only. It was this way that we communicate with the app. We interact with the app, which was so important, which is why I say interface matters, right? So then I started to think to myself, okay. So that's easy. Okay, I like that. So I started thinking to myself, what is a dream interface? What's the dream interface? What's the interface that we'd like to have, but we don't have yet, right? And I thought, well, that's easy. I mean, like, I saw the dream interface like 17 years ago, right? I thought, no problem, right? I saw it. We all saw it. I saw the dream interface, right?
We're running out of time. I'm just thinking maybe I'd play hooky, stay home today.
Right, meeting.
We're working too much.
Can you grab that? So clear. On the right.
Mm-hmm.
When I saw that, seriously, 17 years ago, I thought it was just unbelievably cool, okay? I said, wow, that's cool, right? That's how we should interact with the computer environment. That's how we should interact with the world, right? Like, swiping things and doing that stuff. I thought that is just unbelievably cool, right? And I thought, okay, Hollywood's smart, they got it. It's not real. Okay, fine. But it could be real. So all I need to do is build that. But you see, the problem is I'm an engineer, okay? And so I couldn't actually just go with that. I said, okay, all right, should probably do a little bit of engineering rigor. Let's not just accept that as the greatest dream interface, but let's think about it. Let's think about what really we need to satisfy to really have a dream user interface, right? So we went through it. Me and my team at Finch, we spent years looking at this, honestly. The list was long, I can tell you, okay? But there's only 4 things in the end we have come down to that we believe are the fundamental 4 aspects you need in having a great, and in fact, I say vanishing point, so you don't think about it anymore, user experience, human interface, right? So the first one we came up with, it's kind of obvious, whatever system that in the end we have has to replicate human motion, right? It's obvious because especially in AR, right, you're still in reality, so you can't have something that's limited because in motion, right? You have to, any motion you do in the real world, you have to be able to do in the XR world, right? Because you have to have, at the moment we have limitations. We say, oh, well, there's some field of view problems, but it's okay, we can get around that. No, in the end, to make it really vanishing point, really don't think about it, come on. Anything you do in the real world, any motion, you have to be able to do in the virtual XR world. You guys with me? You see what I mean, right? That's obvious. Okay, that's an obvious one, right? Second one we came up with portability. Portability means mobility, which means I need to be able to interact human interface with the systems here, right? But also, boom, out there, at the gym, at the grocery store, at Starbucks, in the office, in the bathroom, anywhere I go, I have to be, so it has to be extremely portable, mobile, right? But more than mobile. Portable is more than mobile. What I mean is it has to be inter-system, right? It has to be a system of human interface that works on all systems. So yes, it works on my iPhone or it works on my Android smartphone. That's easy in some ways, right? But does it work in my car system? Does it work at Starbucks? Does it work at, at my home system? Does it work at my office system? It has to be interoperable type of portability, right? We believe it. I mean, this is our list, right? So our list says mobile and interoperable. So it really works everywhere, okay? Third one, let's be rational, okay? It has to be affordable. A great human interface has to be affordable. It cannot be for the absolute elite, super rich, super big corporations. To be really a great vanishing point, just enjoy it kind of technology. It has to be accessible to everybody. It has to be so inexpensive that you don't even think about it. Really, it has to be extremely affordable. And the last point, which is almost the most important, but not so frequently talked about, it has to be invisible. What I mean by invisible, so what do you mean invisible? Like, it has to be a lifestyle device. It has to be a device that you don't think about. It's just there. And I use an example of this, right? I have a coffee here. Okay. In augmented reality example, I'm in augmented reality right now, and I'm going to drink a real cup of coffee. And the very next second, I want to interact with an augmented text or something in the augmented world. I need to do it split second, 1 second to the next. I want to go from reality to augmented reality, and I want to not lose the ability to interact. So it has to be invisible. It has to just be on demand, right? Interaction on demand. When I want it there, I want it there. And when I don't need it, it just vanishes. This was what we call invisibility. It's really an important thing that human interface should become vanishing point, right? We don't think about it anymore. So I thought to myself, okay, no problem. Let's check out Tom Cruise 17 years ago. Natural movement. Didn't work. I wanted it to work because I like that movie, but no, it doesn't. See, Tom Cruise has to stay in that position. You guys saw that, right? He's in front of a screen, like, right? He's standing up, but he has to interact here. If he turns around, he won't see the screen. You see what I mean? He's limited in his ability to do natural movements, because in natural movements, we might turn around, but he can't, right? It's also not portable. I think you guys saw that, right? The system is there in this office or in this room or in this lab. If he goes outside, he can't play this thing. You guys are with me, right? It's obvious, right? You know, when you start to really analyze it, okay, it's not a portable system. It's not interoperable, and it's also not mobile, right? Affordability, guys, let's be clear. That system costs a lot of money. I mean, even in like making it in Disney or whatever, it costs a lot of money. But in real life, it'd really be expensive. We agree on that, right? It's not affordable. Not everybody can have it in their house. It's impossible, right? And it's not invisible. And what I mean is, in order for Tom Cruise to use that system, remember he had those gloves on with the little lights. I don't know if you guys noticed that, right? But he has gloves on, which means when he wants to interact with the system, it's not on demand. He says, oh, okay, hold on. Where are my gloves? I think I left them, all right, they're in my office. And he has to go get these gloves, put them on, right? Start up the system and then interact. It's not on demand. If he forgot the gloves, he can't use the system, right? So it's not on demand. It's not invisible, right? So I said, okay, let's not be too hard on Minority Report. It was 17 years ago. Let's bring it forward, okay? Because there are a lot of smart guys out there. Let's bring it forward. And I said, okay, that was a long time ago. Let's look at a better example. You know what? I know who would have created the dream user interface. You guys know who it is? Probably the smartest guy in our generation. Tony Stark. Tony Stark. He would have created the dream user interface, right? Right? Let's see. Tony Stark, right? Genius, extremely wealthy guy, created the dream interface. And I thought to myself, okay, now we're there. I just have to build that. That's going to be great. But one of my guys said, but Gary, don't you think we should check it against the list? I said, no, it's Tony. He's got it right. Don't worry about it. You know, they go, I think we better check it against the list. So I said, okay, let's just do it, you know? So we did. So he said, okay, natural movements. Yeah, right? Right? That was natural movements. We agree, right? I mean, he was, whatever he did, rolling on balls, throwing balls, really natural movement. We agree with that, right? Okay. I think he got it. So, he got it. I said, okay, you see? So let's just build it. No, hold on. Let's finish the list. Okay. Then we kind of ran into a small problem, right? Because that system, unfortunately, as cool as it is not portable, right? He can't use that system, let's say, at Starbucks or any Starbucks, okay? Maybe one he owns. It's not portable, guys. It's not an interoperable system. It works in his man cave. It works in the underground laboratory, right? It's perfect. But the cameras, everything, the holographic projection and everything is really not portable. It's not interoperable. It's also not mobile. It really belongs in that zone. In the zone, amazing, but not portable. And that's a problem for us, right? For the ultimate human interface, it's a problem. Whew. Team, what do you think? Affordable? Don't think that system's affordable, okay? I mean, for Tony, maybe, but not for anybody else. It's really not affordable system. All the cameras, all the stuff, even if it was portable, the system itself fundamentally is not affordable by the masses. I think we'd agree on that. But what I would say is, in some ways, if the system was portable and affordable, it is invisible, right? I mean, you don't see him suiting up with gloves or, even putting on his helmet. I mean, basically, he does what he does when he feels like it. When he wants a screen, he just goes screen, and it's there. That's invisibility. And when he doesn't want it, he collapses it and it's gone, right? That's real invisibility. And I think that aspect, I think he got. So on a scale of, out of the 4, maybe 1.5, maybe 2. I mean, we can, we give him some points. But in the end of the day, it's not the dream interface. And so then you might say, and other people say, okay, hold on, Gary, time out, time out. If Tony Stark can't create the dream interface, maybe the dream interface doesn't exist. Right? I mean, if Hollywood and Disney and Marvel, in their unbelievable imaginations, all these smart guys, if they can't create what you think is the dream interface, maybe your dream interface isn't creatable. Maybe it can't be done, right? What do you guys think? You see the idea, right? And I said, yeah, that's a problem, but I can think of a dream interface. I can think of a dream user interface. It does everything. It does natural movement, it's portable. And they said, really? Like, show me. I said, well, you guys are all wearing it right now. You guys are all wearing the dream interface right now. The dream user interface, of course, is the human body. It's obvious, right? We interact with our environment every day, all day. We do all natural movements, right? It's completely portable and interoperable, I might add. It works on an iPhone and it works on your PC. It's affordable. I mean, you have to feed it sometimes and get a little sleep. But besides that, it's an extremely affordable system. And it's invisible. You don't see me say, oh, where did I put my eyes? Where did I put my eyeballs? Where did I put my ears? No, they're just there. When I need my eyes, they're there. And when I don't need them, I close my eyes and they're gone, right? I mean, it's a completely on-demand system. But it really is a dream user interface. And there's something really important about it. There's something really important that when you really think about it, and I know you guys came, for, a little presentation at XRDC. I spend 24 hours a day for years thinking about one subject, interfaces. I don't build headsets, okay? I don't develop apps. I build interfaces, and I think about it all the time, right? And when I think about it, so I'm going to tell you what I thought about, because I'm not, because you guys don't do that. Why is it the dream user interface? It's the dream user interface because it's not one technology. You see, this is the trick of the invisible interface. If the human body only had sight, I'm not sure it would be the dream user interface, because in the dark, that interface won't work, right? The reason why the human body is the dream user interface, because it hits all 4 of these points, but because it works all the time on demand. When it's dark, you use your hearing, you use touch, right? When you can't touch, you use some other sense, you use sight. When you can't hear, you use a different combination. You're using not one technology, one input device, right? One output device, but you're using a combination exactly on demand as much as you need when you need it. So you don't just use sight, you use sight and hearing. You don't use just taste, you use taste and smell. You guys see what I mean? So 5 senses pretty much takes care of the dream user interface, right? And so, as I said, does that make sense with you guys? You see what I'm saying, right? So it does exist. The dream user interface does exist in the real world, which means it can be created and exist in the XR world. Do you guys see what I mean, right? Of course it can be. If you can understand that concept, it's probably not going to be easy to make, right? But we have to remember the 4 components. You have to have natural movement. You have to have portability. You have to have affordability for the masses. You have to have invisibility, right? So what I would say is, and I started off the presentation, and I'll finish the presentation with this idea, right, of the vanishing point, right? I can tell you for a fact, I am completely confident that XR will reach the vanishing point probably sooner than everybody thinks. We will solve the technologies of optics and graphics and processors and everything. And on the human interface side, I can assure you that Finch Technologies, this is what we do. We have focused completely for years on this one problem, and the invisible interface does exist, right? We have understood it. We have built it. We have seen it. We know how it works. And I'll give you a clue because it's not like a big secret. It has to be a combination of interfaces, right? It's not optics, it's not acoustics. It's not that simple. To build the dream user interface, you have to combine, like the human body did through evolution, you have to combine the right technologies at the right time, on demand, invisible. As I said, the only example I could find, even in fiction, was the human body that really, really could do it, right? So what I would say is that we are absolutely committed. My company and me, we're committed to this concept of creating the perfect, I would say, vanishing point, invisible technology, invisible interface, invisible human interface, and we will do it. We've done it in the lab. We're rolling it out. We talked to a lot of people, but the bottom line is that it really is our focus. I know that for, like I said, for a lot of people, you came to, to see what I was going to talk about. I assure you that the dream user interface exists, and that it will not be the impediment to the absolute roll the window down, wind in the hair kind of thing, driving down the road and just enjoying the XR experience without having to ask anymore, how did they do that? You just enjoy it. That's the vanishing point. Thank you very much. With that, I would open it up to a few questions if anybody has any.
Hi.
Hi,
Thanks for the
thank
talk.
you. Yeah, sure.
So obviously you mentioned it, this is like pieces that are sort of slowly coming together. Things like leap motion with the hand tracking, and now the Oculus Quest that's announced the hand tracking in headset. What's the next thing you want to track after hands that's going to improve this experience?
Yeah, so I would think that, so it's a great question, in fact, and I should probably just address it head on. So people are going to say, okay, so what are the elements? If you have 5 senses, so what are the elements that probably you need, right? And it's a really great question. So our view is simple, and I think, I'm really open to hearing your comments. They don't have to be questions. You can just come up and give me input if you'd like, because I'd really appreciate it, right? But yeah, I think hand tracking is good. I think finger tracking, motion, gestures are good. Downside, what's the downside? Why is it, can't we just do that? There's a few problems. One is that in order to do this, leap motion, hand tracking kind of thing, you have to have your fingers in front of your face. Okay, and that's often extremely inconvenient. And I can name a lot of situations, but when you're in a meeting room, right, and you're talking to people, you can't just, put your hand up because everyone goes, Gary, can you stop reading your text messages? So you can't do that, right? You can't do it when you're driving. You can't do it when you're doing surgery. I mean, there's a lot of, almost in a lot of cases, you can't put your fingers in front of your hand. The other problem that you have is when you're doing computer vision finger tracking, you're using a huge amount of processing power and battery power because you're taking frames all the time, right? You're taking video frames all the time and you're processing. Huge battery consumption, huge microprocessor consumption. So it's good for certain applications. Maybe, I don't know, maybe 10%, 20% of the applications you'll use when you're really doing vanishing point AR, VR, right? But for all applications, no way. What you probably may want to do sometimes, I'll give you, this is what I'm going for, the 5 senses. Sometimes all you need to do is audio, right? You just need to speak. You just, in the car, you say, Siri or whatever, play this song. You just speak. You don't need to put out your hands and start twitching and pinching. That application, this human interface is probably not the right one for that situation. Maybe you need voice. You also, though, oftentimes need to, I would say, have positive feedback. You know what I like about a keyboard? I like keyboards. I don't know if you guys like keyboards. I like keyboards. I like when I click the button A, the A appears, and if I click it again, it appears. And if I clicked it 1,000 times, I feel it. I feel it in my fingertip. Click, 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 click. I like it. Guys, I like it. I don't like when I do something and I have to see, did it happen? I like to feel haptic feedback. I like to click on things. I like to swipe a touchpad. I really do, because for some reason it gives me, using touch, one of my senses, right? That feeling of confidence that it occurred and the feeling of feedback back, right? So this is going to be triggers, touchpads, this kind of stuff, IMU based potentially, right? This is where we're at. So what I'm saying is I think that when you look at the Dream interface, right, it's probably not finger tracking only or gestures only or IMU based only or triggers only or voice only. What we see really is it's going to be a combination that when I feel like speaking, I speak and it works. When I feel like clicking quietly in a meeting and nobody knows, it works, right? When I feel like 5 fingers typing in the air, finger tracking, computer vision, it works, right? So again, on-demand system is really what I think we're going to go for. And I think this is a great question, and thank you for that, because it's important to kind of see what I mean. The vision is not only finger tracking and making it better and better and better. It's really the combination of all of the right technologies, let's say, right, that then drive the invisible human interface, right? Question.
For full body tracking, do you have any interest in processors and technology being woven into clothing that people wear? I know that there's currently some research being done into it, and it's definitely not on the affordable side, but do you have any interest or thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I actually know a lot. It's kind of an area that I've studied a lot of technologies that are full body or woven in fabrics, woven in costumes or uniforms or suits, these kind of things, right? I think actually though the problem with yes, it's possible, and I would just tell you it is affordable. I mean, at the moment you see prototypes, they're expensive and everything, but I know the technology, I know how much it costs to build it, and yes, it's possible. But I would take it one step further. The problem I see with the suit, right, is not that it's not affordable or it's not natural movement, right? It's the problem that I find with it is it's not invisible. See, the problem, when I mean invisible, when you want to have this thing, you have to get in the suit. I mean, you have to go and get dressed. You have to put the jacket on or put the jumpsuit on, right? And this is why I think there's a limitation still. There are ways to get exactly the same effect as putting on a suit, but invisibly, that it's really on demand, right? And this is really where we want to go. We don't want to have to tell people, time to suit up in order to have human the perfect human interaction, right? It has to be on demand. But yes, it is possible to do it affordably, full natural movement, portable, of course, but also invisible. That's the one thing that's lacking today, but it can be solved, and it is being solved. I can just assure you that it's being solved right today, right? Thank you very much for the question. Okay, and any other question? Oh, please.
So you talked a lot about the 5 senses, right? But most people that work in neuroscience know that we have a lot more than 5 senses. So nociception, proprioception. I mean, most neuroscientists refer to 15 to 16 senses. And so I just wanted to raise this because people always talk about these 5 senses. Highly educated technology people refer to 5 senses. This is incredibly limited perceptual domain, and I didn't hear you talk about any of that expanded sensory domain. And it would be good to hear you talk about that a little bit.
So you are right. Okay. In this talk, I did talk about 5 senses. And I think that, in elementary school and everywhere, they still kind of teach the 5 senses. They're not talking about the additional senses that some people believe exist, that some people have proven exist, actually, right? I think my point, though, is not about 5 senses. I think what I was trying to convey is whether there's 5 or 6 or 10 or 15, the important thing is that as we move forward, we should be really using and interacting, human interface, right? With the augmented world, with the virtual world, with our real world, in basically the same way. So today, it may be difficult, right, to replicate some of those senses through technology. But I firmly believe that those other senses you're referring to, if they could be recreated for AR, VR, they must be recreated for AR, VR and incorporated. And I would just mention one thing. You may hear sometimes about brainwaves technology. You should be able to think and things happen. I'm in. I'm in. I'm not against it. Absolutely. I'm not absolutely against it. I'm not like advocating one technology. What I'm saying is when that technology where you can think and you have electrodes here or something and whatever you need to happen happens. Why not? Because that's how we work today, right? We think about something and it happens. So yeah, I'm completely with you. Not about exclusion of sensory perception, but inclusion when it's possible, I would say. So thank you very much for the question. You highlighted what I was trying to say. It's the ability to replicate the senses, a multitude of them, whichever ones work at the time. Last question, I think.
What about the area of intrusive interactions? So for example, if I have a username that is a key phrase, such as Xbox Home, and you're trying to call me by my name and it's interacting with your user interface because it's your voice calling my name, which is a command for your system. Are you doing any testing in a way to prevent those kinds of intrusive interactions?
Yeah, I think that, when it comes to intrusive interaction, which is really a derivative, right, of interaction, right? I think really where the technology is today, I think people are still trying to perfect the fundamental kind of interaction. And I think that what you're bringing up, which is a very important point, I think is almost like the next level that has to be done. So I think when the perfect or the beautiful user interface actually starts to evolve in its concrete form, I think these are exactly the kind of I would say almost system behavior. We could put it like that: system behaviors that you need to think through. How are people using it? Is it intruding on other people's human interface, right, unnecessarily or even accidentally? These are the questions I think that we need to ask, and we will ask, and I think we will solve them. But first, I think we have to finalize in some way or get the first iteration of what I would call the invisible user interface, right? So again, thank you very much for attending. It was a pleasure to speak to you this morning, and enjoy your afternoon. Thank you.